Hello, hello, I'm Ryan, and thank you for joining me for another episode of Arts for the Masses. The arts are alive in Massachusetts, and I'm just a lucky guy who gets to bring them right into your home by sharing so many amazing arts events that are happening all over Massachusetts and beyond, whether it's theater or art displays or dance companies or even opera. There is a wealth of opportunities to get out there and enjoy culture here in Massachusetts. Today, I'm so excited to be talking with the group. They are the Savoyard Light Opera Company, and they'll be presenting How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. It is one of those classic Golden Age musicals. It's going to be playing this November at Carlisle Public School. They'll be using that auditorium. And I am so delighted to have joining me today the director, Kendra. Hi, Kendra. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Ryan. Thank you.
Yeah,
Great intro.
And thank you for just taking some time to chat about this show. So you're in rehearsal. You're probably heading into tech very soon, I'm guessing. Am I right?
Yeah, the beginning of November.
Amazing. So we're talking about how to succeed in business. So for those people who are viewing and tuning in that are not familiar with this show, what is it? Where did it come from?
So there's an actual book, a satirical book by Shepard Mead. It was written in 1952 called How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. And it tells it's a little bit autobiographical on him, about Shepard himself, because he started in the mailroom, just like our hero Finch does. And he worked his way up into the upper executive field in that company, in an ad agency, actually. Benton and Bowles, I think, is the name of the ad agency. And so about 10 years later, about 9 years later or so, somebody took it and made it into a play, but that play was never produced. And it wasn't until Abe Burrows and Frank Loesser got it and made it into a musical. It opened on Broadway in 1961, and Bob Fosse was the choreographer. It won 7 Tony Awards, including Best Musical.
It swept that year then.
It just about, yeah. Frank Loesser actually didn't win for music, but for composer, but yeah, it won all the other categories, like all the other top categories, which was pretty amazing.
So when we were talking before, you had said that it's sort of a satirical piece. So is the book that it's based on a satirical book? Because it seems sort of like it was a biography. So what is the satire involved here? Is it business culture? What are we talking about?
Yeah, so the business culture for sure. The illustration on the front of the actual book that Shepard Mead wrote has these people like leapfrogging actually over other people to as they're going up this ladder, basically. So yes, it was written as a satirical piece. So people in that time, we think of it maybe not this way, but there were people who were aware that, these business practices were happening. There's touches on nepotism in the business, environment. Just the silliness of people don't know what they're doing at the company. Nobody knows what's going on. There's way too many employees. This is a company that's supposed to make wickets like what you use to play croquet. And they apparently have, a 30-story building in Manhattan plus 10 other buildings across the country. It's just silly. It's very silly. And then, of course, the way that the women are treated in the office is also, I think, a mirror about how women were treated at the time. I really do think that it's supposed to be, a satirical take on society, as well as business.
Yeah. Now you mentioned you're name dropping a fantastic composer and choreographer. So let's talk about the music a little bit, because the score is just gorgeous. And by gorgeous, it is sort of that classic Broadway score that gives you everything that you could want. Am I right or am I right?
Absolutely. And it's one that my music director, Barry Singer, and I have, we've always loved the music for this show, and we've always been on our list, but the orchestration was too big to fit into our theater. And so just recently they've actually downsized the orchestration. And so we were able to like actually do it.
Oh, that's great that there's a reduced orchestration available, because it just opens up the doors to so many other companies to be able to do these works and without resorting to using tracks. And I've got feelings about tracks. They have their place, but here you are from the Savoyard Light Opera Company. So I'm expecting that you sort of hold vocals and music at a pretty high standard.
Definitely. We have a great band, as Barry calls it, our band is so fabulous. It's not a full orchestra, obviously, but it's a nice, I think it's 13 pieces or something like around that size. It's a good size for that space. Really great singers with, all sorts of range and just fun. It's a fun show, and like musically, it's great. Yeah, really fun.
So as you approach this show, which is sort of a time capsule piece, what is your vision as a director to make it fresh and resonate with a contemporary audience?
Yeah. So when I first read the script, I was like, oh my gosh, what have I gotten myself into? Especially as a woman, directing this show now at this time in our society where, women's rights are being squashed and we're getting thrown back to days of old, if you will, across so many different platforms. I was a little worried. I was a little like, oh gosh, this is going to be really hard. And the more I sort of delved into the script, I realized we've got to keep it in its time capsule, because there's so many references. We actually are going to make a glossary for people in the playbill so that they understand what a lot of the jokes mean, because I think they're so sort of dated that becomes like you want it to be still funny, right? So hopefully people will read our glossary and go, oh, I get it now. But, just talking about old screen actresses, Marian Anderson, and, different things like old ad agencies that people might not be familiar with and things like that. And Metrocal, which is a diet drink that I didn't know about. It's like the Slim Fast of the 60s was a real thing. So my vision is to keep it very stylized and almost like caricatures, so that it does become funny. I drew inspiration from shows like The Office, SNL, even, like late night hosts and things like that, that, you're throwing a mirror, like I said, back on society and going, this is ridiculous. Like that people were treated like this in the office. And somehow making it funny and make it not be like the audience is going, oh, no, please don't. So that was my goal, is really stylized.
So I'm just curious, why do you think this show has been revived so many times? What gives it the clout that the show keeps on chugging along, that so many regional productions happen, Broadway revivals, high schools continue to do it? What is that it factor for this show?
Well, I think the music, first of all, and I do think it's funny, and the audience has to come to it understanding that it's a satire in order for it to work, so that you don't have them groaning and not being invested and interested in what's going on stage. But I think that really the music, and also it's great for a big cast. And that's something that's sometimes hard to find for us smaller theaters, is to find something that a lot of different ranges of people can participate in. So that's probably why it keeps coming back.
Right. So I know this isn't your first time working with the Savoyard Light Opera Company, but I've never actually had an opportunity to see a show there. So what can I, as a first-timer, expect in terms of the quality and the presentation of the show that I'm going to go out on a limb and buy a ticket to?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we're here in Carlisle, which a lot of people are like, where's Carlisle? So we're right next to Concord, Mass. We're sort of a sister city. We share a school district and stuff like that with them. Much more rural, but the theater is lovely. And the orchestra is great. And you're going to hear some wonderful singing. And we're pushing the actors this time to really use their body, like use some slapstick kind of stuff. So we brought in an intimacy and what she called it, intimacy and fight coordinators, not really fighting, but teaching people how to fall and how to do pratfalls and things like that. So I think you'll really be entertained. We have good quality talent here, and the costumes are going to be fun. The sets are going to be really interesting. We used a lot of sort of transparencies because, like with the flats, we have a lot of like see-through kind of things, like
Sort of scrims and yeah.
exactly, to sort of bring out that feeling of being exposed, and vulnerable, I think is a way to put it. So I think it's going to be great.
It sounds like it's going to be great. Any shout outs you want to give out to any other members of the creative team that are busting their butts putting this show together? Who's your choreographer?
Thank you. Our choreographer is Amy Nosowitz. She's a native Carlislean. She works with Concord Youth Theater regularly. She's on the staff there. So she choreographs and directs there. Barry Singer, excellent music director, who's been music directing with us for quite a number of years, and his history goes back even further into being in the show quite a while ago. I'm not going to say how many years. And so, yeah, we have a great staff, a team. Brendan Chetwynd is our technical director. He works with both Sudbury, Savoyard. That's, I think, why you got a little confused on the name.
I know. But I'm going to cut that out so no one's going to know.
Okay, so cut that out. So, yeah, he works with Sudbury. He also works with Concord players in Concord, and he works with us. So he's really excellent at our technical stuff. We have new lighting system in Carlisle, so that's very exciting. Just was put in last year. And Jeremy Burley is our lighting person, and he does magic with these new exciting LED lights we're super excited about. So we have a great staff.
So I'm curious if maybe you could just tell me a little bit about yourself, Kendra, as a performer, I think you've done some performing as well, and on the artistic side of things. Where did you come from, and what do you do, and what do you love about it?
Oh, well, I am a native Californian. I came to the East Coast in the year 2001, but my background is dance, specifically ballet. I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts in ballet. I danced with Oakland Ballet out in California, and then a modern dance company in Los Angeles. But I started doing theater in addition to dance when I was about 6. So my first show was Sound of Music. I was Gretel. And kept on doing it all through my younger years up through high school and then in college as well. And then once I had started having kids and things like that, I started working with the theaters in their schools. So at first in Maplewood, New Jersey, I started helping out choreographing, producing the 5th grade play, because that was the thing that was what that school did. So we did Grease and the North Star. So that was really, really fun to work with 5th graders. And then when I moved here to Massachusetts, somebody found me. I don't know how they did, but at the time I was still teaching Pilates, which is what I do now, and also teaching dance classes. And somebody said, "Hey, would you like to choreograph for the 7th grade play?" And that somebody was Linda St. Francis, who she also was involved in Savoyard Light Opera Company. And so after I did a few years of choreographing for the 7th grade play at Carlisle School, she said, "Oh, I think you would be great to choreograph Carousel." That was the first one that I worked on with the Savoyard Light Opera Company. So I still do the 7th grade play. I direct that, and have my booming Pilates business here in Carlisle, and I work with the Savoyard Light Opera Company.
Excellent. Well, it sounds like you're so passionate about what you do here, and especially passionate and committed to working with this particular group. It sounds like you found a real match and a real home at the Savoyard Light Opera Company. So I wish you the best with your opening of How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. Please stick around, folks, because we have a cast member coming on who's playing one of the leads in the show, Christopher Govang, and he's just fabulous. I can't wait for you to meet him. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. And we're back. Thank you for sticking around. Like I mentioned, we're so excited to have one of the actors who'll be performing in How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying, Christopher Govang, or I call him Chris because I've worked with him before. He'll be playing the iconic role of J. Pierrepont Finch. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So we were doing Urinetown together when you had told everyone that you were like, I'm going to go out for this show. And, and I'm just curious if before you went out for the production, if you knew that this was a role for you, or if you were just looking for another fun theatrical endeavor to pursue. Was there something that called to you about this role in particular?
Honestly, I just kind of went into it thinking, oh, it would be a fun show to do. I was told that it was going on by other people in the cast, and they were like, oh, we think you would be like a good fit for some of the roles in this show. And I was like, okay. And I had heard the music before, I'd seen the show, and I was like, okay, yeah, that could be a cool thing. And then the cards fell how they fell, and here I am now.
So this character, tell me a little bit about J. Pierpont Finch. He sort of climbs his way up the corporate ladder. Tell me about this character in a nutshell.
I always joke about how Finch is kind of just dense in terms of how he interacts with people. He has a plan like no one else has ever had a plan. He has all these goals that are really lofty and totally unachievable to most, but he is simultaneously deluded enough to get there and also somehow capable of getting there, just even beyond his own delusion. So it's one of those really fun roles where I get to kind of explore that and really just play up this character who will stop at nothing to get what he wants.
What's interesting about it too is that he really schemes a lot and manipulates a lot of people to get his way there, yet he's still very lovable. How do you find the balance of, this guy who he doesn't do anything too despicable, really, or does he? But the audience still has to love him and cheer for him the whole way. How do you balance those things?
So I think in terms of like kind of that manipulativeness, his manipulation isn't necessarily harmful. Like he isn't going out of his way to hurt other people. He's
No, no.
just trying to succeed in business without really trying.
There we go.
And yeah, there's the title. And so because of that, I feel like he ends up kind of circling back around to being a little bit relatable in some ways for a lot of people, where they think, oh, if I had like this one random flash in a pan moment, I could get there as well. I could succeed. And I think that that kind of element of his character really works in his favor and makes him overall likable, as opposed to just being kind of this manipulative, crazy guy.
Yeah. Now, some really iconic actors have portrayed this role on the Broadway. I mean, we have Robert Morse, who originated the role, and what a funny, weird guy, But then other people who've stepped into the role in subsequent revivals, we have Matthew Broderick, and then we have that recent revival with Daniel Radcliffe. And when I think of those different actors, I don't necessarily put them all in the same pot, They are all very, very different. So I'm curious if there's anything you might be borrowing from these other performances, and then furthermore, how you are reinventing the character to fit you, Chris, as a performer.
Yeah, so when I was really kind of getting into the show, I took a lot of inspiration from Robert Morse in particular. Kind of the weirdness and the quirkiness that he embodied in the role of Finch. I really was like, that's just fun. I mean, that would be fun to do on a stage. That would be fun to portray. And as I got more acquainted with the show, the more I started to kind of like explore Matthew Broderick, Daniel Radcliffe, um, and like kind of take bits and pieces out of each of their roles to kind of try and put my own spin on. Um, I really think that I wanted to preserve kind of the quirkiness of the role, in addition to kind of taking that more grounded approach as you kind of see the later Finches, the more recent ones, as they kind of try to give him a little bit more of that human element. Because in the script, he's very kind of, out there, almost like alien kind of, I am just here to like go up the ladder and whatnot. And I think that Matthew Broderick and Daniel Radcliffe in particular kind of put a more human spin on the character that I really liked. So striking that balance between the two, like either crazy and weird or more human, I kind of tried to strike a balance between.
It also just shows a trend in how theater audiences relate to different types of performances as we've gone into where we are today. Whereas when the show premiered, that sort of, people were still hanging on to vaudeville and real slapstick and those types of performers that were brought into a show just to do their bit, just to do their thing. Whereas now when we see a theatrical presentation, especially a book musical, we expect a well-rounded character with flaws and humanity, and we want to go on that ride of a roller coaster with them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I absolutely agree. I think there's kind of an element where audiences today are expecting a lot more stories that are rooted in kind of real life and things that they actually experience, as opposed to the audiences of yore where it was like, oh, we want another kind of big showy, oh, Oklahoma, like that kind of mentality of musical where it's a lot more fantasy and kind of fun and I wouldn't say soft, but they are very cozy. It's a completely different time.
And when you revisit a show like this, where I don't think the book has really been updated, they haven't really revised the book much. It is sort of this time capsule piece that transports you to another time where you still pay homage to those types of performances, those broad performances where they didn't have microphones and you're expected to really just take the stage and fill up the space.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very much, it has those elements of kind of that showiness, that that very almost not melodramatic, but I would say that kind of dramatized, heightened, exactly, yes. That heightened sort of stylistic set of choices that went into shows like that.
And of course, in a musical, when you have to express something big and you can't speak anymore, you sing. So you've got some great songs in here. Tell me about, what's your favorite song? I have a guess what it is, but you tell me what it is. And if it's that Gopher song, then it's
a groundhog.
Groundhog. I was wrong. It's a groundhog.
That's always a good question. Whenever people ask me that, it's so tough to choose because each of them has their perks. Let me guess. Were you going to guess that I was going to say I Believe in You?
Absolutely. I Believe in You.
Yes. And I absolutely agree. I love I Believe in You. It's one of the more human moments for Finch, specifically delineated in the script. And I think it's so important because of that. It just carries that weight with it. At the same time, I kind of like the grandiose sort of vibe of Rosemary. Like that song in and of itself is just so fun. If I had to weigh like any of the numbers in the show, I would probably lean more towards I Believe in You, but it's so tough to just pick one.
Absolutely. And then of course, one of like the best big male production numbers out there. Of course, there's a woman in there too, but Brotherhood of Man is just the epitome of what I want to see on a Broadway stage of men in business suits dancing really hard and a woman either singing in her high soprano or belting or whatever they choose to do in whatever version of the score you're doing. It's just pure joy. So how's that number in your production, Brotherhood of Man?
It's very fun.
Yeah.
I really do like it. And that's also because, in large part, due to the fact that it is one of the big ensemble numbers that I get to be in. One of the things I noticed is that like a lot of the big ensemble numbers where everybody's dancing, me and Rosemary are nowhere to be found. We're kind of off doing our own thing. So this is one of the few times in the script where I'm actually able to like dance with everybody and be part of the crowd and join in for this big number. And it's just been so fun. It's been so fun to be able to like dance with everybody and sing with people, and it's very enjoyable.
Now, this show premiered in 1961, I think, and it is a sort of it's a satire of corporate culture, of, climbing your way to the top. And I'm just curious how you think today's audiences will react to it. Why do you think people still keep coming back to this show?
That is a great question. Because obviously parts of the script are very much rooted in a different time with a lot of different expectations for the workplace, stuff that we like look at and rightfully think is like weird and taboo and not right, because like we have a different understanding of that culture. And I think because of how rooted in that time the script is, it almost lends to itself sort of a satire aspect on the very words that it took seriously 60 years ago. I think it's really easy to kind of play up the absurdity of this like duality in terms of like the corporate culture and gender roles and expectations and things like that. It is so almost like pointed in how it's portrayed that at this point, the way that we play it is that it's just hard not to look at that and be like, wow, that was so odd.
What do you hope audiences will experience and take away from seeing this fabulous production of How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying?
I really just hope they have fun. I know that it's simple to say that, but it's a very fun show, especially the way that we're staging it and going about portraying this story. And so because of that, I really hope that people walk away from the show thinking, wow, that was a really fun show. I liked that. I wanted to get up and dance with them.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Chris. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk about this show. I can't wait to see it.
Well, I'm excited for you to see it and to do the show. And thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely. Well, that brings us to the end of another episode of Arts for the Masses. The Savoyard Light Opera Company is presenting How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. It's going to be playing November 14th through November 22nd at the Corey Auditorium at Carlisle Public School. Website's right here on the screen. You're not going to want to miss it. And if you are an arts organization in Massachusetts or beyond, I'll take anyone in New England, let me know what you're doing. I'd love to feature you here on the show, whether it's a theater company, opera, dance, any sort of actual physical art. And I keep saying I need some puppeteers in here. Please reach out. I would love to have you on the show. Thanks for tuning in.